Look at all that money, yeah, the money that they've spent. Take another look and take some time for him. Don't cut trees for paper, 'cause it hurts the environment. Stop deforestation, yeah, it's time for hemp. Well, an acre of hemp makes 20 barrels of oil. No need for pesticides to poison all our soil. People got no food, they got no clothes, they got no rent. Well, it's time for him.
Yes, it is. It is time for hemp. I am your host, Casper Leitch. And if you like this content, please hit the like and share button and let the whole world around you know how valuable this plant is. Today on the program, anytime you hear the word joint, make sure you hit your bongs, your pipes, your vaporizers. And today on the program, one of my joint hosts, Al Graham, is up in Canada. And we got another joint host on the broadcast, Al Byrne. And we are having a joint chat with our joint guest that I'll let Al Byrne introduce to you, because Al jointly worked together with this lady to let the whole world know jointly how important it is to enjoy a joint for your medical needs. Al Byrne?
That's me. Yes. I've just learned I've known this lady for about 10 years. I thought it was longer. But she is a doctor, a PhD, and we haven't got there yet in the first half of our interview, but we're going there next. So may I introduce Dr. Nique Pichette. Did I do better?
Better. Pichette.
Oh, good. Hey, give me time. I'll get it. So before we go to Doctor, I want to reiterate to those that are just joining us that Nique is a former Marine, and our TV show network here is very fond of military people. So Casper is a ex-Army guy, and I'm an ex-Navy guy, and of course, the doctor was in the Navy, but we call them Marines. You know, they're part of the Navy. Anyway, all right. So listen, there's a couple of things you mentioned in the first half that I'd like you to concentrate on at least a little bit, please. One is you said there are some bad effects to cannabis sometimes. Could you tell us what they may be?
That don't make no sense. I don't believe it. I don't believe it.
Quiet.
I don't believe it.
Casper, I know that it's something that advocates don't like to talk about, but there are a certain percentage of people that have intense paranoia, intense anxiety to what appears to be higher levels of THC, higher doses of THC. I am definitely one of them. So when I advocate for cannabis, I also try very hard to advocate for the safe use of cannabis. And although I'm not saying that don't use cannabis, I'm just saying use cannabis safely and effectively. And that's one of the ways that we can help end the stigma, because I'm also a psychiatric nurse. And I am seeing patients coming into the inpatient psych units, and they're in a psychosis, or they're very, very paranoid. And some of them are coming in because of what appears to be their use of cannabis in extremely high doses of THC content. Yeah. So people that are vaping, like 95% THC continuously, you're flooding the endocannabinoid system, And this is where we're starting to see some of the troubling effects of cannabis used for purposes of strictly getting high to the point where they're obliterating themselves. And some
Well,
of
and
them,
using those vape pens too are hard on your throat, and they're causing more lung problems too, from what I understand.
so they say. That's not where my research is, so I really can't speak to that. It would just be a personal opinion and not a medical opinion. What
Okay.
I do see and what I do know is when I do have these conversations with the patients, when they're able to talk to me, 99% of the patients I've spoken to are vaping 85 to 95% THC content, or they're doing Delta 8 in very high, the synthetic form. Some of them don't even know what they're using, where they've gotten it from, what the THC content is. And this is what I mean about the education to change the stigma. So,
Yeah, but excuse me, but what you're really talking about, I think, is the word dose. Aren't we just talking
yeah,
about dose here? I mean, you can use a high concentrate THC, but if you use it correctly, you'll be all right. I mean, one of the problems I have with ingesting cannabis, especially by inexperienced cannabis users, is they take a gummy or something and they wait 10 minutes, 20 minutes, nothing happens. Well, it's not gonna for at least a half an hour more. Then they take another one and nothing happens. And then they take a third one, and next hour they're in the ER going, So I just want to tell the audience, I want you to say to the audience, agree with me. I want you to agree with me, okay? That there's nothing wrong with the cannabis used correctly. It's the way it is used, the misuse of the plant material that is causing the trouble. Is that right?
absolutely, Al. And let me break that down a little bit more. So, the way that I break it down so people can understand it more as medicine. If I was using Percocet for pain control and I was prescribed 5 milligrams every 6 hours of Percocet, but Al, you were prescribed 30 milligrams every 6 hours for pain control because you had a higher tolerance. But I ran out of my fives, so I started taking your 30s. I could have different side effects of that 30 milligram Percocet than I'm going to have from that 5 milligram of Percocet, even though it's prescribed to me and even though it's medicine. So all I'm saying is that we're all different. We all have a different endocannabinoid system, and we all have to understand that cannabis can't always be used interchangeably for everybody because everybody has a different tolerance level. Everybody has a different use. Everybody has a different medical need. So, therefore, there's no wrong way or wrong dose if you understand what you're using it for. If you're taking a pharmaceutical and you say to the doctor, I don't like the way this makes me feel, there's a side effect that I'm having, the doctor's going to adjust that, or the doctor's going to put you on a different type of medicine in that same class. For instance, an antihypertensive. So for cannabis, that might not be the right strain for you. That might not be the right chemotype for you. We're transferring in the medical world into the chemotype versus the strain name. So the 3 different chemotypes are the different levels of CBD and THC. So I might need a CBD and THC equal part cannabis versus somebody might benefit from a higher THC and a low CBD versus somebody might be the opposite and need high CBD with a very low THC. And that's all I mean by dosing and THC content. I wouldn't go to a pharmacy, even take something off the shelf that was just, if everything was in a red box and I didn't know what I was picking, and just grab that box and bring it home and take it for a headache because I don't know what's in that box. So I think education is very important from not only the medical professionals that are out there, and I'm talking nurses, doctors, physicians assistants, nurse practitioners, chiropractors, not just the medical community, but patients need to advocate for themselves. And if they are choosing something that's not beneficial for them, then they need to have a conversation with somebody that has this education that can help navigate them to better choices that are going to be more beneficial to their needs.
So, in order to do this, you became a PhD.
Yes,
And
actually,
and okay. And then you said, now I'm going to get these guys from the inside. So tell us that story.
So I was a nursing supervisor in a psychiatric hospital during COVID. And while I was there, I was also working on my doctorate because, as I said, in 2016, I went to California. In 2019, I came back to the East Coast and I said, no one's going to take me seriously as a cannabis nurse with some of my mental health issues and wanting to stay as a nurse. So maybe if I get my doctorate, maybe then they'll start to take me seriously. So I went ahead to school. So while I was working on my doctorate, I had also established the Cannabis Nurse Navigator in 2016 as a student in the Entrepreneurs for All program. And with that, because when I was a patient, there was no nurses that could navigate me through this care. I had to do this all myself. So the Cannabis Nurse Navigator is what I wanted to do my dissertation on for nursing school. And my professor said that it would be too difficult and too big of a project to do. So while I was working during COVID, I was trying to figure out where cannabis might fit in. And I started seeing an uptick in cannabis use disorder to patients coming into the psychiatric hospital. And I would try to leave articles, even from the ANA, from the American Nurses Associations, for continuing education units for nurses so they could learn about cannabis, so they could learn about the endocannabinoid system. And the director and other staff members would take it off the desk and report me that I was trying to educate about cannabis. So
well, you were.
Yeah.
I was. Absolutely.
Well, they got that part right.
Right. But because I was the night supervisor, there were anonymous emails going to the director and HR saying, you might want to check on your night supervisor. She's a cannabis nurse. She might be coming to work stoned.
Oh, Jesus. Here we go.
So
See,
I laughed.
all you pot smokers just want to, you say it's medicine, but you just want to get high.
Yeah.
Right.
We're sorry. Go ahead.
Keep going.
So I continued to just push through that. And it was the same hospital that when I left for California, it was the last application that I tried that I popped positive for cannabis. And they submitted my medical card and my test results to HR because they thought I was going to get through. And the doctor said that there were no studies for breast cancer, so therefore they still couldn't hire me. Fast forward to 2019, I came back to the same hospital. I showed all the work in advocacy that I was doing and said, don't worry, I'll pass your urine test. I passed my urine test and then I got hired. So they knew my background as well. So they knew that I wasn't stoned at work. With that being said, I started to see the stigma that was around mental health and cannabis. and I started to see these nurse practitioners and psychiatrists that were diagnosing patients with cannabis use disorder, yet they couldn't tell me anything about cannabinoid therapeutics or the endocannabinoid system. So I started
jeepers.
So I started to question how they felt that they had the right to put that diagnosis on a patient's chart that was coming into a psychiatric hospital that was going to stigmatize their care once they left, and that diagnosis was going to follow them.
No kidding.
Yeah, exactly. So they're uneducated, yet they're making that diagnosis.
Based on what we call, or what we know as, the QDIT-R. The QDIT-R is the Cannabis Use Diagnostic Inventory Tool Revised Edition, and it was actually created from the audit, which is the Alcohol Use Diagnosis Inventory Tool. Now, we all know that you can't compare alcohol use and cannabis use and put them in the same category, because alcohol has no medicinal value, but we have proven that cannabis has medicinal value. Yeah. So I started to look at that, and I proceeded to engage with my instructors at Salve Regina University, and I changed my direction to looking at how we could change the diagnostic criteria, or the tool for diagnosing cannabis use disorder. And that was approved for my dissertation for my doctoral program.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, really nice.
So that was actually, where's the name for that? That was actually called the CARV Assessment Tool, which is the Cannabis Assessment Reliability Validity Evaluation. And what that did was, I took questions from the DSM-5, which is the American Psychiatric Journal. It's like their Bible of psychiatric diagnosing. And I took the criteria for cannabis use disorder, and I took the QDIT-R, and I pulled together a plethora of questions, of interview questions, and put that together. And for my dissertation for school, I sent that out to providers. And by providers, I mean it was medical professionals who had the ability to diagnose. So they had to be psychiatrists, medical doctors, nurse practitioners, physician assistants. You had to have the criteria to be able to diagnose. And I had 16 respondents in a small pilot study that came back, answered the survey questions, and did feel that the questions that I built in this survey did prove that it was a valid assessment of cannabis use and medical cannabis use. So that was my dissertation for graduation. And while I was going through that, I started travel nursing, because that psychiatric hospital would not let me do my study on cannabis use disorder. And all I wanted to do was go through the medical records of patients who were diagnosed. I didn't even want to have patient contact, and they wouldn't allow me. So I started travel nursing to get into other psychiatric hospitals, so I could see if this was actually a greater problem than just my hospital. And I ended up at the Institute of Living in Hartford, Connecticut, in which, when I interviewed, I told them, you please have to know that I'm a cannabis nurse. If you look up my information, you're going to find out that I'm a cannabis nurse. And their response to me was, Nique, it's okay. We have a doctor here that's studying cannabis. And
Nice.
I said, you do? So in my perception, I thought it was a young doctor that just got out of school. I got to my first day of orientation. I couldn't wait to get to lunch so I could call the IRB, which is an internal review board for the ethics of medical research, to make sure that you stay in compliance and you're not causing harm to patients. I just have to plug in my computer so it doesn't die. Sorry. And with that being said, I left a message for Dr. Godfrey Perlson, who I didn't look up and I didn't know who he was, and told him what my study was and that I needed clinical hours. And he got back to me right away, and he pulled me into his research center so that way I could gain clinical hours. And there is where I learned he had been studying cannabis since 2014. He's a Yale professor, and actually this month he was just recognized at Hartford Hospital as the top 100 neuroscientist in the world, and he's number
Wow.
67 in the United States. His
Wow.
work
We should have him
is
as a guest.
absolutely, absolutely. His work is on schizophrenia, and also I was part of his studies on cannabis and driving. So I would, as a nurse in his research center, I actually dose participants using a volcano, and we do blood draws. And with the blood draws, then we do driving simulation. We do sway, and we do different testing so that way we can prove or disprove if cannabis and driving does show enough of an impairment. We also did a study with cannabis and memory, in which I place an IV and we do 4 to 5 blood draws. They come in for a placebo dose and they come in for a live dose. Then on both days, they go through an MRI while they're doing task in the MRI. They also do an EEG while they're doing task in the EEG. And at different increments throughout the day, I'm drawing blood so that we send blood to the lab to see where the the THC levels are in the blood. And we're like really charting all of this. That study has now closed. We're waiting for the data on that study. And 2 weeks ago, we just started our new study on cannabis and aging because of all of the hype we're hearing about cannabis and the elderly and strokes and heart attacks. So we've actually have 2 age ranges for participants, and we're doing the same thing, but we've added a Fitbit so we can monitor heart rate. And we've also added an EKG when they go into the MRI, so we can also see what the heart is doing while they're under the influence, while they're going through these tasks.
Well, you'll have to come back and share your data with us when you get it.
Yeah.
That's very
I was
interesting.
just going to say that we're running out of time.
I've got a quick question because I'm the Canadian on the panel here, and I understand that you have done some work here in Canada, and we've got about 2 or 3 minutes. Can you fill us in?
So yes, the cannabis use disorder study that I followed up with at Hartford Hospital with the guidance of Dr. Perlson. We're working with the University of Manitoba with Paul Kornman, who is going to be doing the stats and data for that. So that way we can check the validity and reliability of that study, and then in turn have a new solid instrument. So therefore providers can more accurately diagnose cannabis use disorder and or help patients navigate their way through the safe use of cannabis for their care.
Yeah. Good.
How do we get a hold of you if we want to? If you want to tell people, I'm Dr. Nique, and you want to get a hold of me, you do it this way. My
email is nique@drniquednp.com. Also, you can go to the Institute of Living at Hartford Hospital and the Olin Neuropsychiatry Research Center website, and you'll find myself and Dr. Perlson, and you can see the studies that are ongoing right now on cannabis and soon to be starting psychedelics and hopefully BCP.
Wow.
Great interview. Great interview. Thank you so much.
Yes, yes. We could have you back a dozen times, I can tell.
Yeah, wow.
Thank you all for having me.
And Al, Byrne, let people know how to get a hold of your book real fast.
Yeah, get a hold of my book any place you want. Apple Books, Amazon Books, bookstores book. It's an ebook. It's a book. And if you're a healthcare professional, you should read this book.
And Al, Graham, let people know what they can listen to and where they can find it.
You can find people advocating cannabis education at paceradio.net. We have cannabis as well as psychedelic programming that comes out 7 days a week.
And speaking of 7 days a week, 24 hours a day, you can go to timeforhemp.news and find a radio player that you can hit the play button on, and you can listen to Time for Hemp broadcasting 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Lots of great interviews, lots of great music about this wonderful plant. And we're also found on BitChute and Tumblr. We're also on iHeart and iTunes. Just anywhere sound is found, we're around making sound on the internet about this fantastic plant. And we ask that you share all the content that we put out and let everybody know around you how important it is to take time for hemp.
Look at all that money, yeah, the money that they've spent. Take another look and take some time for him. Don't cut trees for paper, 'cause it hurts the environment. Stop deforestation, yeah, it's time for hemp. Well, an acre of hemp makes 20 barrels of oil. No need for pesticides to poison all our soil. People got no food, they got no clothes, they got no rent. Well, it's time for hemp. Throughout Earth's history, hemp has been used, no mystery. Hemp was legal to pay your taxes for more than a century. Check your faxes. The founding fathers make sense to me. It's time to grow hemp legally. Think of all its uses. It's money that's well spent. Right now, no excuses. It's time for hemp. Sustainable green industry, that's our intent. A better place this world will be. It's time for hemp. Fuel and food and clothes and soap, housing, cars, yeah, cars, no joke. Henry Ford built a car of hemp. It's time for us to do it again. People be employed with balanced farming as it's meant. Right now, it's time for hemp. Hemp is a true necessity for the wealth and protection of this country. These are words of Jefferson Thomas. He grew hemp, why not us? It's time to lift the hemp band. It's time to lift the hemp band. Yes, we can. I know we can. We can make a difference. Yes, we can. Yes, I know we can. We can work together and lift the hemp band. Look at all that money. Yeah, the money that they've spent. Take another look and take some time for you. Don't cut trees for paper, 'cause it hurts the environment. Stop deforestation. Yeah, it's time for hemp.